Snyder, and thank you so much for joining me for the Sane Crypto Podcast, the first cryptocurrency podcast for baby boomers investing for retirement. You've probably heard me say most people believe crypto assets are too risky for the average investor. I still believe that the risk is in not investing, and in fact, cryptocurrency may be the answer to near retirees' prayers, although admittedly, it certainly doesn't feel like that right now. More on that in a minute. This podcast is brought to you each week by the Sane Crypto Mastermind, which is my signature program for those who want the diversification, benefits, and return potential of cryptocurrency with the guiding hand of a 20-plus year investment professional with a proven track record through both bull markets and bear. Now, because it feels like people are getting just a little bit panicky between the losses in the stock market and the losses in their cryptocurrency portfolios, I decided to create a brand new free guide called When Things Get Wild: How to Protect Your Portfolio and Still Get a Livable Return. You can find that at kimsnyder.com/bear market. Note that is all one word, bear market, and it is on kimsnyder.com, not Sane Crypto. That's spelled SNIDER. So Kim, to get the free guide, which When Things Get Wild, How to Protect Your Portfolio and Still Get a Livable Return, kimsnyder.com/bear market, spelled KIMSNIDER.com, and hit the orange download now button. All right. So, as a long-term investor, I don't usually talk about specific price movements much because, to me, day-to-day prices are irrelevant. I am only interested in what they do over the long term. Day-to-day prices and news are, just things that I work really hard to tune out. So, why would I talk about them? But occasionally I make exceptions. One very obvious exception was during the financial crisis. At the time that the financial crisis broke, my investment firm, Snyder Advisors, had somewhere around about $500 million of people's retirement funds under management and consulting. And one of the things that I am proudest of is that my clients back then, I've since sold the firm, but, at the time, those clients who didn't panic, who stuck with the system, came through the financial crisis relatively unscathed compared to most people. But your portfolio losing 60% in 4 months and iconic companies going bankrupt all around you and the very real threat of a global financial meltdown is terrifying, especially when you're already retired or very close to it. And it is during those really severe drawdowns that even the staunchest long-term investor can lose their nerve and capitulate just to relieve the anxiety that gnaws at you constantly. It says, what if this time really is different and this time it never does come back? Or, it doesn't come back fast enough. So during that period, I did a lot of talking. I was, sending out mass voice messages. I was on the phone with clients all day, every day. I was sending them emails, all just reminding people that the world wasn't going to come to an end. And, we'd all be okay as long as we didn't do anything stupid, like liquidating our portfolios, which is financial suicide. Although I find it really surprising and alarming, frankly, that many cryptocurrency investors are first-time investors who have never been taught the fundamentals of investing and may or may not have been through a steep market sell-off like that, I decided this was probably another one of those times. I got this email a few days ago from Sissy. She says, I bought Bitcoin very near the top this time last year. My fiance and family all thought I was being foolish. I was convinced I would totally prove them wrong when my genius investment made me a millionaire. My dad keeps quoting an article that says Warren Buffett and Jamie Dimon have the last laugh on cryptocurrency and is telling me to salvage what I can by selling. I am beginning to think he is right. I'm not sure what to do. Any thoughts would be appreciated. Well, I'm sure Sissy is not alone in that. Lots of people bought near the top last year, including me. Because I don't believe in market timing, trying to predict, right, whether it's going to go up or down. And even though I knew we were in a bubble and was saying so at the time, the algorithm, my discipline had me buy a very big chunk of GBTC in my IRA up around 17, like high 17s, as I recall. So, I can certainly empathize with the UGG, right? For the record, I still own all the cryptocurrency I've bought then and since and have no plans to sell it unless and until it goes up far enough to trigger the exit rules in my system, which are absolutely hard and fast and a long, long way up from here. There is, just so you know, never a condition under which I sell something as it goes down. Never, ever. Not in 20 plus years of investing. That's just not the way my systems are set up. As many of you listening will know, that forces the discipline of buying when everyone else is selling and selling when everyone else is buying. So with that, actually, probably becomes like the TLDR version, the too long didn't read version. Let me dive into a detailed answer to Sissy's question. Just to clearly caveat what I'm about to say. I know nothing about the specifics of Sissy's situation because she didn't include anything more in the email than what I just read to you. So this is definitely not investment advice to Sissy or anyone else, okay? These are just my broadly held opinions given some very general facts. I am assuming from the email, Sissy is on the youngish side and therefore has a pretty long time horizon. But again, it's just an assumption. I don't know that for sure. I'm also going to assume and hope that, Sissy, you didn't do something really foolish, like buying more than you can afford to lose, or worse, borrowing money, even from your own 401k to buy this Bitcoin. If you did, then, this is a totally different discussion, okay? But assuming that is not the case, the first thing I think is critically important for you to understand is that no one knows what is going to happen in this market with Bitcoin or any market, any investment. No one knows. No one knows. I don't know. Your dad doesn't know. Warren Buffett doesn't know. Jamie Dimon doesn't know. No one knows. They never know. You can't know. What we all have is an opinion. And each of these opinions falls somewhere along a spectrum of knowledge about what it is we're giving an opinion on, right? That ranges from zero knowledge to world's leading expert on the question at hand, right? That's the spectrum. And then each opinion also has a second axis, which is the extent to which our opinion is colored by our own agenda or conflicts. Now, if you imagine those, one is an X and one is a Y, right? And crossing so that they create 4 quadrants, with one quadrant being zero knowledge and huge incentive or agenda, right? The next quadrant being zero knowledge and no agenda or incentive. The third being lots of knowledge, but also lots of incentive or agenda. And then the fourth being lots of knowledge and no incentive or agenda, right? You can, sort of like Eisenhower's quadrants, every opinion will fall somewhere within those 4 quadrants. So you just have to know that 99% of the opinions you hear are coming from someone in those 3 bad boxes. It is very, very, very difficult to find anyone in that last box because we all have agendas. We all have incentives and even emotional biases that we may not even know are affecting our opinions or that aren't that obvious at first blush. You know, they're saying, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcome and I'll tell you what the outcome is going to be, right? Show me the incentive and I'll tell you what their opinion is going to be. So the way I try to approach this for myself, from a practical standpoint, is to invest, and to learn in such a way that acknowledges 3 things. 1, no one knows what will happen in the future. So remember, if you flip a coin 5 times in a room of 1,000 people, 31 of those people would have correctly called all 5 coin flips. But that doesn't mean that they are coin flipping genius that you should pay for their coin flip picks, okay? So 1, no one knows what will happen in the future. 2, the shorter the time horizon, the more the result approximates a 50-50 coin flip, meaning each price movement, each day, or you can equate it to a flip, right? Each coin flip will have no impact on the next flip and is therefore meaningless noise, okay? But you aren't actually playing this game with a fair coin. You are actually playing with a weighted coin that favors upward moves over downward, which approach the weighting the longer you play the game. Okay? And the third thing is that the one person I can be most certain about having no conflict of interest and no agenda is me. Meaning, in your case, you, right? No one has a more vested interest in your success than you do. Although again, right, we are all plagued by our emotional biases that very often are as bad as the advice a hugely conflicted advisor would give, right? I mean, that's just something that we have to deal with. Now, starting with number 1, okay? One thing I promise you, without having or needing any knowledge of what will happen to the price of Bitcoin in the future, absent some, exigent circumstances where you should not own cryptocurrency in the first place, the one thing I can promise you is that now is not the time to sell your Bitcoin. Investing is a probability game, okay? Hence the references to the coin flip. What we know without a shadow of a doubt is that the downside is less and the upside greater at $3,500 than what it was when you bought it at $20,000, okay? And yet our lizard brains scream at us to do the opposite of what we should be doing, which is to buy when something is going up and to sell when it is going down, right? The probability tell you this is absolutely backward and the wrong bet every time. The second most important idea to wrap your head around is a variation of the cliche. The cliche is you have to spend money to make money. My variation is you have to lose money to make money. And this is so counterintuitive. But it is because our brains are terrible at understanding risk and return over time. Truth be told, nature has just played the cruelest of tricks on us because our brains are terrible at just about everything that we need to be good at, being good investors. So perhaps a better version of my statement would be, you will almost certainly have to lose money in the short run to make money in the long run. And the corollary is the more you want to make in the long run, the more you need to be prepared to risk losing in the short run. Now, this would seem sort of obvious, but no, what you have, the reason this is true is that no investment makes money all the time. If that were true, there would be no risk. And since profit is the reward for risk, if there was no risk, there would be no profit. Those are called money market accounts. Now, the way investments work is that they go up and they go down over time. And the expected return is the average of those ups and downs over time. And again, because those ups and downs occur over a period of years, in what works out to be like a series of weighted coin flips, the longer you are in an investment, mathematically, the higher the probability that it will approximate that expected return. But in the meantime, because this isn't like Wobegon where all the children are above average, in order to get that upside, you also have to participate in the downside. So first, you have to know that going in. And if you can't afford to stay in an investment long enough to get the upside, to get the average, then it's the wrong investment. This is what we mean by saying it's inappropriate. It's an inappropriate asset, given your it's inappropriate level of risk given your time horizon. But one thing we do to manage that up and down, to manage that volatility, which is actually too big of a topic to cover here, is something that I cover in depth in my new guide, which I mentioned at the top of the show, When Things Get Wild, How to Protect Your Portfolio and Still Get a Livable Return. I also covered it in last week's podcast, which was episode 44, about protecting your portfolio from a bear market. Unfortunately, what tends to happen, again, because the modern part of our brain, which is the prefrontal cortex, makes the logical decision to buy this with the best of intentions of holding forever. But we have this prehistoric lizard brain, the biggest part of our brain in the back, that is charged with survival and which takes over because it gets scared when things go down. And the lizard brain convinces us to sell. And then we wonder why we can't make money as investors. It's because if you fall into that trap, and it is a trap, you are only participating in those downsides and never the upsides. And again, the trick is to find a way for your lizard brain to stick it out so that you can sell when it is going up, not the other way around. And there's one word there, and I'll just leave it at that: systems, systems, systems. Okay? But that is the game. And that is the struggle. Markets go up and markets go down. And the more return we want, the more up and down we have to tolerate without selling. Now, that said, there's no guarantee, of course, that even if we hold, that we will make the expected return. We should, but not always. That would be too easy, right? Just like in blackjack or in poker. The right decisions arrived at by diligently following the right rules or process can at times yield a bad result, right? A Category 5 hurricane is forecast to make a direct hit on your city, and you decide to evacuate. You sit through 12 hours of traffic to get what normally takes 3 hours away. And at the last minute, the hurricane veers east and misses you entirely. Good decision, good process, bad outcome. A few years later, another Category 5 storm is forecast to hit, and you think to yourself, no way I'm evacuating this time. Now I have my 85-year-old mother living with me, and she's too hard to travel with. Last time it was fine. I'm staying. And again, the hurricane veers off and misses the city. Bad decision, good outcome. Next time, same scenario. You stay. Only this time it's Hurricane Harvey. Direct hit on Houston. This was my uncle and my grandmother, by the way, so I know these scenarios very well. Right? Your home is destroyed. There's no power for weeks. No nursing homes to put your mother in. Bad decision, bad outcome. The people who left, who evacuated each time, good decision, good outcome. Okay? So probability games are hard for just this reason. One outcome has nothing to do with the next. And it's a numbers game. You play long enough, and generally, good process leads to good outcome. And bad process to bad outcomes, more often than not. But in the meantime, the results can be really, really deceptive if you don't have the big picture view. And it is in that moment of weakness that your lizard brain, or someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, or has an agenda, convinces you to abandon the process and sell at the exact wrong time. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that answers the question, Sissy. I hope it helps. And thank you for your timely question and for sharing. I'll just mention again in closing the free guide that I've put together over at kimsnyder.com called When Things Get Wild, How to Protect Your Portfolio and Still Get a Livable Return. Again, you can find that at kimsnyder.com/bear market, all one word, and my name, Snyder, is spelled S-N-I-D-E-R. Just hit the orange download now button on the, I think I said left side of the page before. It's on the right-hand side of the page. You can get the full show notes of this episode, including links and references, where you always do, which is at sanecrypto.com/podcast. And finally, if you have a question about today's topic or anything else, just email me at AskKim@sanecrypto.com. Like Sissy did, I read and answer every email personally, as well as answer some of them here on the show. Everything I say on this show is for educational purposes only. Nothing should be considered investment advice. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. So do not, under any circumstances, invest money you can't afford to lose. I know, we talked about that. That's it for me. I'm Kim Snyder. I'll be back next week. Until then, may the crypto gods smile on us for a little while.